Xiao only suppressed the excitement in his heart while he stood in the sky. He exchanged glances with Sun Er. Only then did he carefully descend. He slowly came to a halt when he was around a couple dozen feet from the cream-white and pink fire lotus. The current purifying demonic lotus flame was completely different than the one from earlier. The purifying demonic lotus flame was extremely violent while this one was peaceful and calm. It did not unleash an attack when Xiao and Sun Er approached. The purifying demonic lotus flame seems to be a little different than earlier, Sun Er finally stated in a somewhat surprised voice after watching the fire lotus quietly float around. The purifying demonic lotus saint has removed all of its old memories and intelligence. The current purifying demonic lotus flame is just like a baby who has just been born. Xiao face was filled with a heated expression. After having witnessed the brutal character of the purifying demonic lotus flame, he would not dare to refine it even after obtaining it. After all, even an ultimate expert as strong as the purifying demonic lotus saint had ended up dying because of the retaliation of the demonic flame. Even less needed to be said about a mere 2-star dosheng like him. However, such worry had completely vanished now. The purifying demonic lotus saint's remnant image and the purifying demonic lotus flame had vanished from the world. Only the pure baby-like demonic flame essence remained behind, and it no longer possessed any violence like it did earlier. Would doing this not end up damaging the spirituality of the purifying demonic lotus flame? Sun Er frowned and asked. The reason natural heavenly flames were unique was because they possessed a spirituality that an ordinary flame did not possess. If this spirituality had vanished, the heavenly flame would not longer possess that dazzling allure. Given the purifying demonic lotus saint's skill, do you think that he would do something so foolish? This purifying demonic lotus flame is still filled with spirituality. However, some of the things that did not originally belong to it were snatched away by the purifying demonic lotus saint. Xiao shook his head and said, "Currently, it appears as pure as it did when it had just appeared in this world. It has not been influenced or contaminated by people. Looks like this purifying demonic lotus saint has been a great help to us." Sun Er covered her mouth and softly laughed. This operation of theirs was about to end in failure, but the purifying demonic lotus saint had appeared halfway through and forcefully stripped the various negative emotions away from the purifying demonic lotus flame. This allowed them to taste some hope. What should we do now? The spatial tunnel has already vanished. I gave it a try earlier, and I'm afraid that given our current strength, we are unable to tear open the space here. Sun Er hesitated before she once again spoke. Although both of them were elite 2-star doshengs, this realm had been created by the purifying demonic lotus saint. There were still some seals existing in this realm, so it was not easy to tear through this space. Xiao fondled his chin. His eyes returned to the fire lotus on the surface of the magma and laughed. Since we are temporarily unable to leave, I should refine the purifying demonic lotus flame here. Are you confident? Sun Er knit her brows. Although the purifying demonic lotus flame had ceased randomly attacking, it was a terrifying existence ranked third on the heavenly flame ranking regardless of how one put it. It would not be easy to refine. Less than 50%, Xiao faintly smiled but did not hide anything. After having witnessed the might of the purifying demonic lotus flame, a fear had formed for this demonic flame. Moreover, there was definitely less than 5 people around the entire world who were absolutely sure that they could refine the purifying demonic lotus flame. Hence, how could he pat his chest and guarantee that he could? A worry flashed through Sun Er's eyes after hearing his low chances. There is no choice. If we bring the demonic flame essence out, countless of people will be tempted by it. At that time, even if I follow you to the Gu clan to hide, it will still bring trouble to the Sky Mansion Alliance. This demonic flame realm was personally created by the purifying demonic lotus flame. I think that even your father will not be able to barge in so easily. Otherwise, I'm afraid that he would have already intervened and snatched away the demonic flame. Hence, we are safe in this realm. I will only be able to refine the purifying demonic lotus flame without being distracted here. Xiao smiled and said, other people might think that we have met with mishap if we remain here without leaving for a long time, but this will save a ton of trouble. Ziyin and I have a dragon seal as a connection, so there isn't too much to worry about on teacher's side. Sun Er mused for a moment after hearing Xiao Yan's words. She could only nod her head in the end. What Xiao Yan had said was reasonable. Currently, there were many people within the Central Plains who had cast their eyes to the demonic flame realm. If other people discovered them taking the demonic flame essence out, even the might of the Gu clan would not be able to suppress the greed in those people's hearts, which means they would attack without care. At that time, they would end up in an endless amount of trouble even if they could deal with them. Moreover, there was the Hun clan watching with ill intent by the side. There would be no time to quietly refine the demonic flame. In that case, when do you plan to act? Sun Er's eyes softly rolled as she asked what he was planning to do. Haha, there is no hurry to refine it now. We still have some time. Refining the purifying demonic lotus flame is not a simple matter. I must prepare some things. Xiao Yan smiled and shook his head. His eyes became heated when he looked at the demonic flame lotus floating on the magma. He had thought that refining the purifying demonic lotus flame would not be difficult after reaching the Doshan class, but the battle from earlier had allowed him to understand that if he did not prepare some things, the one who would end up being refined would be called into question. The spatial distortion had completely vanished outside of the demonic flame realm. The terrifyingly high temperature that originally covered the land had gradually weakened. The magma desert below had ceased churning before it gradually solidified into many white rocks. Many figures were suspended in the surrounding sky. Their eyes were filled with an unwillingness as they stared back at the spatial tunnel. After the spatial tunnel scattered, they lost contact with that magma realm. Regardless of what kind of technique they unleashed, they could not make the realm to reappear. Why is it that Xiao Yan and Sun Er are still not out? Ancestor Huiyun stared at the sky with a grave expression. There had not been the slightest activity ever since they had escaped. Young Miss, Gu Nanhai anxiously stared at the sky. Cold sweat covered his forehead. Sun Er's position in the Gu clan was extraordinary, but he had lost her. There was no telling how he would be reprimanded after returning to the Gu clan. Elder, there is no need to blame yourself. Sun Er insisted on accompanying Xiao Yan. It is pointless even if you manage to react in time back then. Gu Qingyang softly sighed. He also had not expected Sun Er to take such a big risk and remain in that magma realm with Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan is extremely blessed. Nothing will happen to Sun Er either. What if something did? Gu Nanhai grit his teeth and asked. Even an expert like him could not remain in the demonic flame realm for long. Even less needed to be said about Xiao Yan and Sun Er. Let's wait, Yao Lao by the side sighed. It was pointless to say anything at this moment. The demonic flame realm had shut, and they were unable to enter it again. Hence, the only thing they could do was wait. The remaining individuals quietly nodded after hearing Yao Lao's words. The Gu clan seems to have suffered a great loss this time around. That Sun Er has an extraordinary talent. If she was given enough time, she probably would have become extremely terrifying. Although we did not manage to obtain the purifying demonic lotus flame, we have finished off 2 potential threats. The deputy hall chief a short distance away glanced at the Yao Lao's worried group while laughing in a strange low voice. Xiao Yan has the remnant image of the purifying demonic lotus saint on him. There is no telling if an accident will occur. The chief of the Hall of Souls merely frowned as he replied. Xiao Yin is full of tricks. He does not appear to be someone with a short life. Hun Feng slowly commented. We will wait a few days here. I want to see just what kind of tricks two juniors can pull. Old man Hun Mo's eyes flickered slightly as he spoke in a low and deep voice. The three remaining individuals nodded after hearing him speak. They did not add anything more. Most of the people did not leave once the demonic flame realm closed. Instead, they chose to remain in the sky outside. Most people were unwilling to make a wasted trip, so they wanted to wait and see if any unexpected changes occurred. 7 days passed in the blink of an eye as everyone waited. Not the slightest activity happened in this place during these 7 days. Not even the slightest heat was emitted. This caused many people to feel disappointed. Some people remained unsatisfied and left amid this disappointment. It has been 7 days? Gu Qingyang bitterly laughed. He looked at Gu Nanhai in front of him, whose face seemed to have aged. He hesitated for a moment before asking, Elder, what is it? I don't know. Gu Nanhai shook his head. His voice was a little hoarse. Yao Lao's expression by the side revealed his fatigue. He was just about to speak when the space in front of him fluctuated. Ziyan's figure appeared in a flash, but she shook her head after appearing and said, I am unable to find the demonic flame realm. There is a seal placed on this realm, and I am unable to detect its location. The expressions of Yao Lao's group appeared dark upon hearing this information. However, Xiao Yin should be fine. The dragon seal will disappear if something happens to him. Ziyin extended her hand. There was a pale golden dragon seal on her palm. She turned her head to Gu Nanhai and smiled as she said, Elder Gu also need not be worried. Xiao Yin and older sister Sun Er are together. Given his character, he will definitely not allow anything to happen to her. He would also go crazy if anything happens to her, and if that happened, the dragon seal would not be this calm. Some life finally appeared on Gu Nanhai's face after he heard her words. He lifted his head and glanced at Yao Lao before sighing, Regardless of what the case is, this matter has already happened. I will need to return to the Gu clan to report on this matter. You can rest assured that I will dispatch people to constantly monitor this place. I will inform the Gu clan of any activity. Yao Lao replied in a deep voice. In that case, I will thank you. Gu Nanhai forcefully braced his attention. He cupped his hands to Yao Lao before staring deeply at distant space. Only then did he turn around and fly to the northern sky. Gu Qingyang hurriedly followed behind him. Yao Lao's group exchanged glances with each other seeing those two leave. They quietly sighed. While everyone was gradually scattering outside of the demonic flame realm, Xiao Yin, who had prepared for 7 days inside the realm, slowly opened his eyes. He was finally going to start refining the purifying demonic lotus flame. He had waited over a decade for this day. Xiao Yin Ji, are you ready? Sun Er sat in the air. Her tightly shut pretty eyes were slowly opened. She looked at Xiao Yin, who had suddenly stood up beside her, and rolled her eyes. Finally, she let out a sweet smile. I am. Xiao Yin nodded. He looked at the formation above his head. This formation had been formed by connecting some faint lines of fire, but there was a vague chill being emitted from it. This is the cold fire formation. This kind of chilling doqi is not an ordinary cold fog. Instead, it is something that is produced after the temperature has been raised to a certain level. Normally speaking, it is a somewhat unique cold fire. Although this formation is not as terrifying as the one placed by the purifying demonic lotus saint, it will still be able to slightly suppress the purifying demonic lotus flame. Xiao Yin pointed at the formation above his head and explained it to Sun Er, who had revealed some doubt in her pretty eyes. Sun Er nodded with a sudden understanding after hearing this explanation. I am about to act to refine this purifying demonic lotus flame. Sun Er, help me take a look. Xiao Yin smiled. His eyes shifted to the purifying demonic lotus flame as he spoke with a grave expression. I. Sun Er's face became a lot more solemn. Refining the purifying demonic lotus flame would not be an easy task. If it was not done properly, one might even be refined by the purifying demonic lotus flame into ashes. Xiao Yin was naturally aware of such a risk, but he did not have the time to consider all the dangers at this moment. His hand seals changed and the formation in the sky began to rapidly rotate before an unusually dense cold air erupted within the formation. After which, it shot to where the demonic flame lotus was located through Xiao Yan's control. Under the influence of that cold air, the magma below emitted a crack sound and solidified. Only the demonic fire lotus continued to slowly rotate as its many petals were covered by a thin layer of frost. Xiao Yin sighed in relief within his heart after verifying that the formation was of some use. He clenched his hand, and a pink jade bottle appeared in it. The jade bottle was tilted, and a pool of pale red liquid slid out. Finally, it fell onto the purifying demonic lotus flame. This pale red liquid was called drunken demon saliva. It boasted an extremely intense numbing effect. Of course, Xiao Yin did not hope to completely numb the demonic flame. He only wished to borrow the medicinal effects of this thing to cause the purifying demonic lotus flame to remain lazy. In this way, the demonic flame's strength would fall slightly and increase the refinement effect. The fire lotus slowly spread after the drunken demon saliva fell into the lotus. Even the flower petals had an additionally scent of laziness. Currently, the purifying demonic lotus flame might still possess some spirituality, but it did not possess any true intelligence. It still needed to have contact with humans for a period of time before it would become as intelligent as the previous purifying demonic lotus flame. Now, however, was the best opportunity for Xiao Yin to strike. Go! Xiao Yin did not stop after completing this step. He took out another medicinal pill from his storage ring. This medicinal pill immediately caused a bone-piercing cold fog to surge out. This medicinal pill was naturally the 9-yin yellow spring pill Xiao Yin had prepared. Xiao Yin flicked his finger, and the 9-yin yellow spring pill flew forward. It swiftly melted upon contact with the purifying demonic lotus flame and formed layers of ice on the surface of the demon flame. But this ice had only just appeared when it was vaporized by that terrifying high temperature. Thus, wave after wave of a sizzling white fog continued to rise from the body of the purifying demonic lotus flame. Who? Xiao Yin exhaled a deep breath of air as he stood in the sky. He turned his head and nodded to Sun Er, after which he suddenly turned his body. His body flashed and appeared in front of the purifying demonic lotus flame. At this moment, the lotus flower petals on the purifying demonic lotus flame's body had drooped, revealing a cluster of pink flames in the middle. The cluster of flames looked like a newborn baby. A high temperature that caused one's soul to flutter radiated from the pink cluster of flames. Xiao Yan's eyes were extremely heated as he stared at this cluster of pink flames. This was the true demonic flame essence. One could not underestimate the small size of this fellow. This tiny cluster could incinerate those experts at the 6th star of the Doshang class into ashes if they accidentally let it into their bodies. There was no need to doubt its frightening strength. Xiao Yin stared at this cluster of demonic flame essence. The heavenly flame within his body began to wildly circulate. Finally, it agglomerated on the surface of his body, but this powerful heavenly flame, merged from many heavenly flames, appeared a little sluggish as it gathered on the surface of his body, but his heavenly flame appeared much dimmer since it was being deterred by the purifying demonic lotus flame. The top 3 flames on the heavenly flame ranking were all the kings of the heavenly flames. An ordinary heavenly flame loses its strength after meeting one of those kings. Even though Xiao Yan's heavenly flame was the merger of 5 heavenly flames, it was not able to fight this purifying demonic lotus flame. Qi. Xiao Yin did not have the time to worry about the dimness of the heavenly flame on his body. He slowly extended a trembling hand in front of Sun Er's anxious eyes and reached into the fire lotus. After which, he grabbed the cluster of pink flames. Bam! The moment Xiao Yan's hand touched the pink flames, those tiny flames began to swell in an instant. They turned into fierce flames that wrapped around Xiao Yan's body. A terrifying temperature that caused even the sky to change suddenly erupted. Xiao Yan GG. This unexpected change startled Sun Er. She hurriedly stood up. Her pretty eyes were incomparably anxious as they stared at the cluster of pink flames. Xiao Yan's face became distorted because of a pain that pierced his heart as he stood within the burning flames. He crazily urged the heavenly flame on his body to mitigate the damage from the high temperature of the purifying demonic lotus flame. Although he had made a lot of preparations, Xiao Yin could clearly sense just how terrifying the third-ranked heavenly flame on the heavenly flame ranking was. Hoo-hoo! An intense panting sound was emitted from Xiao Yan's mouth as wave after wave of fresh bright red blood seeped out of his pores. But this blood had only just appeared when it solidified into a cuticle that firmly adhered to his skin. This caused Xiao Yin to appear as though he was wearing blood-colored armor. Ha ha ha. I have put in so much effort for this day. This little pain will not be able to stop me. Fresh blood dripped from all over Xiao Yan's body as his hair turned to ashes, leaving behind a round bald head. At a glance, he appeared extremely comical and miserable. His eyes were still open, but blood flowed in front of them until his eyesight became a little blurry. He stared at the pink flames above his palm as a ferocious smile formed on his face. After which, he stuffed the flames into his mouth in front of Sun Er's startled eyes and swallowed them into his body. Bang! The clothes formed by the ancient insect emperor on Xiao Yan's body instantly turned into ashes the moment the demonic flame essence entered his body. His skin rapidly vanished, revealing the flesh underneath. One could vaguely see some scales beneath his flesh. These scales were from the phoenix dragon ancient armor hidden within his skin, but at this moment, even the extremely hard ancient armor had become dull. Flame mantra, refine it. An intense pain that could not be described reached every part of Xiao Yan's body. That intense pain would usually cause one to go crazy, but Xiao Yan's eyes merely turned bright red. He relied on his perseverance to endure as a mad roar sounded within his heart. The dou qi within Xiao Yan's body fearlessly charged toward the cluster of demonic flames. After which, the dou qi forcefully wrapped around them and began to circulate them along the flame mantra's path. Hong hong. The demonic flame's essence seemed to have detected something when they felt the refinement process of the flame mantra, causing them to put up an intense struggle. The temperature of the flames became more terrifying, causing some of the weaker veins in Xiao Yan's body to turn into dust. Even some of his bones were showing signs of weakening. Sun Er cautiously watched the madly roaring and struggling Xiao Yan from the magma world in a startled manner. His body had shrunk by half and appeared quite frightening. Xiao Yan GG. Sun Er bit her lower red lip. Drops of bright red blood seeped out of the corner of her mouth, appearing extremely glaring. Every low roar from Xiao Yan was like a blade that cut her heart. That pain made even breathing difficult for her. This was the first time she could watch Xiao Yan swallow a heavenly flame. Although she did not feel it herself, she could have gained an idea of the indescribably intense pain that came from refining a heavenly flame. Xiao Yan had trained by himself over these years. Others might witness his shocking training speed, but they were unaware of the price he had to pay for his strength. Refine it. Xiao Yan's hissing roar once again echoed from the monstrous flame, but regardless of how much effort he put in, his body continued to become damaged. The strength of the purifying Demoic lotus flame was far too vast and mighty. It was impossible for him to endure it alone. The terrifying flame permeated every part of his body and also filled his heart. It was impossible to expel these flames. Sooner or later, Xiao Yan's body would be incinerated from inside out. If this continues, Xiao Yan Gigi will definitely die. Sun Er's hand rubbed away a crystal tear that had fallen from the corner of her eyes because of her heartache. A golden flame suddenly surged out of her body. Her body drew a pretty arc in the sky before landing in the cluster of flames that was torturing Xiao Yan to death. Sun Er, you. The person who had suddenly barged in caused Xiao Yan to recover some of his mind, which had been overtaken by an intense pain. His eyes parted as he furiously cried out, but the beautiful figure who had charged into the flame embraced his body like a shake after he cried out. That soft touch and serene fragrance was like a spark that immediately lit a wild flame within Xiao Yan's body. Sun Er. Xiao Yan firmly hugged that beautiful, delicate, jade-like figure. He heavily panted while his eyes recovered some reasoning. He clearly understood just what was going to happen if this continued. It was the same as that time with Medusa back then, but he had been unconscious at that time. This time, however, he was still awake. Xiao Yan Gigi, you can only refine it if we are together. Sun Er's revealed an extremely pretty face. Her teeth gently bit Xiao Yan's earlobe while she enticed him with a bewitching voice. Those soft words finally caused Xiao Yan's eyes to turn bright red. He let out a low, beast-like roar. With a ripping sound, soft clothes were wildly torn apart before they turned into ashes because of the high temperature. A romantic atmosphere soon covered this realm.